Today I got a 97 Mercury Mountaineer that has a 5.0 liter V8 engine in it, and it has a chirp noise coming from the belt area up front here, but it's not the belt. What it is the camshaft synchronizer. The bushings inside of there get worn out, dry, and dry more than anything, and they start chirping. So the usual fix for that is to replace the whole Synchro and cam sensor, retime the engine. It's a very expensive repair. There's a little trick that you can do to quieten it up and lubricate those bushings without even pulling out the Synchro. So today I'll show you how to do that and access it and how to lubricate it. But first, I want to show you how it sounds so you can identify the sound. Now this one's a little bit harder to differentiate between the Synchro, which is right there, you see it? Down in there, the two little bolt heads, and the belt, because it's so close, right there. Whereas on some of the other engines, like the 3.8 or the 3.0 liter engines, the Synchro is on the other side back there, so it's kind of easy to see where the noise is coming from. Whereas the 3.8 liter, and I think the 4.0, and of course the 5.0, it's right next to the belts. And there's that chirp noise right there. Now this one's doing it while it's full cold, whereas usually these engines don't do this until it's full hot. So it can vary based on temperature. Either way, the fix is the same. We're going to pull the cam sensor off there. It's two 5.5 millimeter bolts, and then we're going to squirt a little bit of oil down in there, let it wick down into the bushings, and we're going to reinstall the sensor. Now, no matter where yours is at, there's probably going to be a harness on top of it, something in the way. Just get it out of the way. And then there's two 5.5 millimeter screws and one connector on it. You just press a tang down and pull that off. Get the connector out of the way. Like this one. There we go. And then, after that, once those bolts are loose, this thing, and my hand's in the way, it literally lifts up and off there. It's just a cam sensor. Now if the cam Synchro down in there is chirping really loud, either you let it go too long or you just acquired the vehicle, you may have a cam sensor code P0340 in it. Even if you don't have that code, once you get your cam sensor off, look for any contact damage in here. Once those bushings get so dry in there, it actually starts wearing into the metal, and it will start wobbling in there and start chewing into this sensor. That's in extreme cases, so just take a look, make sure there's no damage, no contact. It should pass through this window right here without touching anything, and this one's just fine. Now before I get down in there and start squirting oil, there's bound to be some kind of dust up inside of this Synchro in here, so I like to blow it out with some compressed air. It's not totally necessary, but as you can see, it's a good idea. And here's what that cam synchronizer looks like. It sticks down into the block, and it meshes with the cam gears on the back side of the cam, and it'll actually spin with the cam at that half speed, and it'll drive the oil pump, and it'll spin up here for your sensor. There's a little window in there. That's the parts going around and around and around. And once the bushings that are inside of here get worn out, because there's no lubrication, whereas down here there is, they can actually grind away at each other and wallow out. This thing's wobbling around in here, tearing the sensor up. You get erratic cam sensor timing, all kinds of stuff. So, but that's a whole nother issue. Today we're just going to be concentrating on lubricating those bushings that are up top here. So in this particular vehicle, it's pretty hard to get down in there and show you how I'm doing this. It's kind of buried in there. So I'll show you right now with this little demonstration one. Basically, this is how it looks right now down in there. We're going to get our oil squirter, something like this, and we are going to focus, squirt some oil down in there, squirt or two, and then we're just, of course, me upright, and we're just going to let it wick down into the bushings in there. And you don't want to fill it too much, just enough, a couple squirts, let it wick down. and then, you know, reassemble your cam sensor in the meantime. And then when you start the engine and it starts spinning, right, it'll help it wick down into there and lubricate those bushings for you. And if you give it a squirt or two, you can see there won't be much left in there to contaminate the sensor or anything like that. Once it runs a little bit like this, it's just going to keep wicking down into the bushings, and that'll fix your noise. Now, if you are worried about the oil contaminating the sensor or whatever your concern may be, what you can do is leave the sensor out, leave it unplugged obviously, squirt your oil down in there and start the engine and let it run at idle for 30 seconds to a minute, and that'll wick down in there, and then you can get air nozzle down in here and blow the excess out that's on top of that Synchro, and then reinstall the sensor. Alright, let's start it up and see how she sounds. Nice and quiet. Cheap and easy fix. Alright, so hopefully it's helped. I like to get these quick fix videos out whenever possible, as long as they're low or no cost like this one was. This is a trick we've been using for years. The other guy's done it to his own car. We've done it to a few customers that just didn't have the money, and it works and it lasts. So as long as you use that motor oil like that, it'll be a little bit thicker like that and last a little bit longer than, let's say, something like WD-40.